Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Learn Property Valuation with Dr. T. In this video, we'll be simplifying the income method of valuation by breaking down all the key terms, variables, and concepts that students often struggle to fully understand. So today, we'll focus on the fundamental terms used in the income method of valuation. We'll talk about concepts like the gross rent, the net rent, the rack rent, yield, and others. So please do not forget to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, like and share these videos. Let's begin. The income method of valuation, also known as the investment method of valuation, is one of the 5 traditional methods of valuation. The income method of valuation is usually used when you're valuing an investment property that generates rent. So a property that generates rent or income. Income from property is rent. So once it generates rent, you can actually use the income method of valuation to value it. Now, what you see on the screen is the basic formula for the income method of valuation. Capital value is equal to the net income times the year's purchase. We will be explaining a lot of these terms as we go. But it's important that as a student of estate management, you have this formula stuck in your brain. Capital value is equal to net income times years purchase. Every other thing that we'll be talking about comes back to this formula. So please make sure you memorize this formula. So the first one we're going to talk about is the gross rent, also known as the gross income. Remember I said that income from property investment is rent. And this is the total receivable rent from a property before any deductions. It represents the landlord's total revenue from the property, right? So a tenant pays rent to a landlord and he has not taken out anything, he hasn't taken out any expenses, whether it's for operation of the building, whether it's for the management of the building, the total amount that the tenant pays before any deduction at all is known as the gross rent. So the next one we have here is the outgoings. And the outgoings can also be called the operating cost of the building. So it includes all costs expended on the property to keep it in a functional condition, right? Typical outgoing include things like rates, insurance premiums, management fees, repairs and maintenance costs, service charges, and sinking fund contributions. So remember that when we spoke about gross rent, I had told you that it is the rent that the landlord collects before any deduction. So the outgoings is a major deduction from the gross rent. Is a major deduction from the gross rent. And if you look at the bottom of the page, it says, in practice, under a full repairing and insuring lease, the tenant bears most outgoings. So the gross rent closely approximates the net rent. What it means is that once a tenant takes a lease on a full repairing and insuring term, you assume that that rent is net, right? Even though, yes, it's the total sum that was paid to the landlord, there will be no deductions by the landlord because the tenant is taking care of the outgoings, right? So the landlord only removes the outgoings when he's the one who is responsible for the outgoings. So what we have here now is the net rent or the net income. And this is the income that remains after the landlord removes the outgoings. So remember, we had talked about the gross rent and then we talked about the outgoings. So when the outgoings is now removed from the gross rent, what is left is the net rent. And net rent is the part of that formula from the second slide that says net income times years purchase is equal to capital value. Whenever we're doing valuation, we only capitalize the net rent. We do not capitalize gross rent. So by all means, you must make sure that you're sure that what you are capitalizing is the net rent and not the gross rent. Okay. The implication of capitalizing the gross rent is that you come up with a fake and inflated value, because what you are saying is that this is the worth of the property. However, it is not the worth because the landlord still has to spend out of that money for the upkeep of the property. So it's very important to make sure that what you're capitalizing is the net rent and not the gross rent. So here we have the rack rent, which is also known as the market rent or the full rental value. Full rental value is very commonly used in valuations, and we usually use the short form of it, FRV. And this stands for the best rent at which a property might reasonably be expected to be let in the open market as at the date of the valuation. So, comparable, how much do comparable properties go for in the open market? Okay, what is the rent that comparable properties will receive if there's a transaction on them in the open market? And that's what we call the full rental value. And if you understand the concept of the open market, you know that the open market is usually should have a willing buyer and a willing seller. There should be reasonable knowledge about the commodity and so on. Transaction should be at arm's length and all that. So it is the same concept here. And that's why it says it assumes a willing landlord and a willing tenant, a reasonable period of marketing, and that parties have acted knowledgeably, prudently, and without compulsion. So that those are the characteristics of an open market. So how much would similar properties go for in the open market? This is important, as you will see later on, because the subject property we are dealing with may have been let either above the full rental value or below the full rental value. So here we have the rent reserved, also known as the contract rent or the passing rent, or in some cases the rent passing. And it is the actual rent that was paid by the tenant to the landlord under the terms of the lease. Okay. It is very different from the one we did before, the full rental value or the market rent. This is the exact amount that passed between the tenant and the landlord. And the relationship between this passing rent and the market rent is what determines the kind of valuation approach that is used. And then we have the profit rent, right? So the profit rent is the difference between the market's full rental value and the passing rent. Okay. So it is like the advantage that the lessee is also known as the tenant, the advantage that the lessee has for paying a lesser amount than the full rental value. And in the case where the lessee also has a tenant who we call a sub-lessee. So yes, the lessee is a tenant to the landlord, but in a case where he also sublets his property and also gets a tenant, of course, he's going to get a higher rent than what he paid for the property. So the difference between what he collects from the sub-lessee and what he paid for the property is a profit rent. Okay, so there's a simple formula here that says the profit rent is equal to the market rent minus the head rent payable. Head rent is the rent that the lessee paid to the landlord. When we say a property is under rented, it simply means that the passing rent or the contract rent is below the full rental value. Okay, so what the tenant has paid as rent is lower than what similar properties will likely go for in the open market. That's the meaning of under rented. So a property is said to be over rented when the passing rent is more than the full rental value of that property. What it means is that what the tenants paid in rent was way higher than what similar properties are going for in the open market. So when a property is rack rented, it simply means that the passing rent of the property is equal to the full rental value. So the property was given out at a rent that equals what similar properties are going for in the open market. The yield of a property investment is the annual return on the property investment, and it measures how much an investor earns relative to what they invested or relative to the value of the property. So it's usually expressed in percentage. Okay. So when you hear what is the yield of this investment or what is the yield of this property investment, it means how much is what's the rate of return of the property as against the value of the property. There are various kind of yields, and one of the commonest one is the all risk yield. The all risk yield gets its name from the fact that it already reflects various risks that may be attached to property investments. As you can see on the screen, these risks may include things like the rental growth, the income security, tenant quality, location, condition, and management. As a general rule, the lower the risk, the lower the yield, and the higher the risk, the higher the yield. So you will see how that applies later on when we start doing valuation. But a lower risk investment is usually commands a lower yield, while a high risk investment would usually command a higher yield. We have the remunerative rate, and this is basically the rate of return that an investor requires on capital invested. If you have seen our videos on uh, YP dual rate calculations, you will notice that there are two rates when we're doing that valuation. The two rates that we use to determine the YP. So we have the remunerative rate and then we have the accumulative rate. So basically the remunerative rate is the rate that, okay, the investor says this is what I want to get on my capital, and he has already factored in the various risks that may be associated with that investment into this rate. Okay, in that dual rate calculation, the remunerative rate is usually the higher rate. It's usually the higher rate. Okay, so that is it, the remunerative rate. Okay, so the accumulative rate is the other part of the YP dual rates calculation. So we have the remunerative rate, which is usually the higher rate, and then the accumulative rate, also known as the sinking fund rate, which is the smaller rate. And the essence of the sinking fund rate is that the investor is putting aside in installments regularly. He does not want to spend it. The essence is he wants to use it to cover his initial investment. So after a couple of years, he wants to be able to take that investment and make sure that he has covered what he invested into that property initially. That is the essence of the sinking fund rate. Okay, so it's a low risk rate, and that's why it's actually it's usually small. So, most times you see maybe between 2 and 4.5%. Yeah, so that's the sinking fund rate. So the initial yield is the ratio of the net passing rent to the capital value, and it's a reflection of what the investor earns on buying a property at the current income level, at what the rent is now. So that is as against what the market rent is. It's a true reflection of the yield of the investor. So unlike the initial yield, the reversionary yield is actually a ratio of the market rent to the capital value, expressed in percentage, of course. So remember that the initial yield was the passing rent over capital value. This one is actually the market rate over the capital value times 100. And here we have the tax rate on sinking fund. Now, earlier on, we've spoken about the remunerative and the accumulative rate, stating that the accumulative rate is a sinking fund rate. In some cases, there's a tax attached to the sinking fund because it is a form of income. And that tax usually has a bearing on the final value of the property. So you would see the significance of this when we do the valuations for YP dual rate adjusted with tax. So we have come to the end of this part of this lesson. There's going to be a part 2. Please be sure to look out for it and make sure you subscribe, like, and share these videos. Thank you very much.